One day, in a tiny village, the ground shook and the catacombs split into a fissure where a man emerged. He claimed to rule the golden country that vanished 1,000 years ago, due to a mad mage who cast a spell that sunk the country deep underground, also trapping his subject. The man declared that he would bestow his kingdom on whoever defeated the mage, before he turned into dust. Inside a dungeon, a group of adventurers were facing a dragon. Their leader, Laios, was confident that it wouldn't be a problem for them. However, because of their hunger, they were all sluggish and were overpowered by the dragon. Because of a mistake in their map, their group fell into a trap and lost 3 days' worth of food, also delaying their arrival at the dragon's location. Laios couldn't focus on the battle. His little sister saved him from being devoured by the dragon. And while stuck between the dragon's fangs, she used teleportation magic to send their party out of the dungeon. Laios woke up with a growling stomach. Marcille immediately called out to him. She was thankful to Falin for saving them using her spell, and she looked around to find her. Because of this, Laios remembered that Falin was eaten by the dragon. Marcille was in disbelief, but Laios planned to head back to the dungeon right away to save Falin while the dragon was still sleeping. However, Marcille stopped him and explained that they were broke since their inventory was left inside the dungeon when they teleported, while Chilchuck explained that their other members decided to leave the party as they have been receiving offers from other parties. Laios thought of selling their gear to buy cheaper ones, then using the rest of the cash to buy the essentials and hire new party members. However, Chilchuck thought it wasn't a good idea, and Laios thought his sister would be digested by the dragon before they could figure things out, and he was unsure if they could still resurrect her at that point. But they decided to set their problem aside, as they needed to eat first. Marcille and Chilchuck were already thinking about what to eat and where to eat. However, Laios suddenly declared that he would return to the dungeon, and he asked the two to leave the party as he thought he could avoid the monsters and get back to the floor quickly if he was alone. The two thought it was a bad idea, but Laios still felt responsible, and he didn't want to risk their lives further. But Marcille insisted that she would join and do anything to save Falin. Chilchuck also declared that he would help, and they were confident that their skills would come in handy. Laios was touched, but he had a scary expression when he asked if they really wanted to come, so the two responded worriedly. Laios brought them to the entrance of a dungeon, and he declared that they would also sustain themselves in the dungeon, similar to the humanoids living inside it. Marcille asked if they were really going to eat monsters. Laios affirmed, saying that there were even tasty-looking monsters. However, Marcille panicked, as she could only remember gross or scary-looking monsters. Laios thought that they didn't have a choice as they didn't have any money, but Marcille argued that they could die from food poisoning if they ate something weird. At the same time, they heard the screams of newbies, although they were just being chased by a cute-looking walking mushroom. While Marcille was confused that noobs were allowed inside the dungeon, Laios decided that the walking mushroom would be their lunch. Marcille thought it was gross, so she threw tantrums in protest. Chilchuck was curious how Laios could tell it was edible, so Laios took out the Dungeon Gourmet Guide, which tells if a monster is edible and also describes its taste. While Laios was catching a scorpion like a crayfish, Chilchuck asked if he had a weird fantasy of eating monsters. Laios blushed, but he declared that saving his sister was the only thing on his mind. The two didn't believe him, so he explained that aside from his love for monsters, he wondered how they would taste, so Chilchuck concluded that he was a psychopath. After deciding that they would boil the monsters, they started preparing them, and Chilchuck even thought that the walking mushroom started to look like food after getting sliced. Laios also started boiling the whole scorpion. Marcille was worried about its poison. Laios was confident that it was fine. However, after taking a bite, he started throwing up. Seeing this, a dwarf told them that their method of cooking a scorpion hot pot was incorrect. He removed the scorpion's limbs before chopping its body and removing its innards. Afterwards, he skinned the walking mushroom and saved its feet, saying that it was delicious as he let Laios take a whiff, although Marcille thought he was a mushroom foot sniffer. After preparing everything, the dwarf took out his pot and placed everything in it. However, he thought it would taste bland, so he gathered more ingredients from the catacombs. Marcille refused to eat plants from a graveyard, and she also started questioning the dwarf's identity. Because of this, Marcille failed to notice a slime dropping from the ceiling, and she thought it would be her first death as she couldn't breathe at all as it covered her head. But thankfully, the dwarf saved her. Laios was confused about how he could kill the slime with a knife, so the dwarf explained its anatomy, and because he was familiar with it, he could easily find its organs and kill it. Afterwards, he washed it with hot water before adding citrus juice, as he planned to dry it and use it as an ingredient later on. He also took out some slime that was ready to use. He was glad that after studying how to cook the monsters for 10 years, he found other adventurers that were also interested in eating the monsters. The party was surprised, but the dwarf just continued cooking. He added the remaining ingredients and boiled it until it was ready. Laios thought that it looked better compared to the recipe in the guide, and after taking the first bite, he was surprised by how good it was. Chilchuck also thought it was delicious, so Marcille couldn't endure anymore, so she asked to try it. The party was amazed at how delicious the monsters tasted, and after stuffing themselves, Laios thought it was the perfect time to introduce themselves. The dwarf introduced himself as Senshi, and he could tell that the three were on a mission, so Laios explained what happened. And when he heard about the red dragon, he immediately asked to join the party, as he had dreamed of cooking the red dragon in all kinds of dishes. Hearing this, the three wondered if it was fine to cook what had eaten one of their party, although they didn't say anything about it. After arriving at the second floor, Laios thought they should rest first. However, they had to hunt a monster for their lunch. Marcille wasn't looking forward to another monster dish, so Laios offered to cook something she liked, but she said that anything edible is fine since it would still include monsters anyway. But despite saying anything was fine, she asked for fruits or birds when Laios mentioned bats, goblins, and living armor. Laios thought it would take time to catch a normal animal, but Senshi explained that there are plenty of nuts and fruits around, so Marcille was pleasantly surprised. However, he was actually talking about some man-eating fruit plant. Laios explained that the plants are actually not capable of digesting their prey, although they became their fertilizers instead. Hearing this, Marcille was finally convinced that they could eat it, and she also offered to fight the monsters with her magic. However, Senshi suddenly stopped her while she was chanting her spell, so she was caught off guard by the plants. Senshi didn't want to destroy all the fruits, but Marcille refuted that they should help her first, as she panicked after seeing the plant spit an adventurer's corpse. Laios cut the plant's root to save Marcille. He asked if she was alright, but he also explained how the plant would leave its seed in its prey, and he asked how it felt being trapped in its vines, as he heard that it actually felt cozy. So Marcille was creeped out. After gathering more ingredients, Senshi steamed one of the fruits, removed its seeds, pounded its skin, and used it to cover the pan. Then he mashed the other fruits and mixed them with a dash of slime and scorpion broth until it was thick. And after pouring it into the pan, he waited for the mixture to bubble before adding the rest of the fruit. Then he waited until the man-eating plant fruit tart was cooked perfectly. Chilchuck was surprised that it was salty and not sweet, but Laios thought that it was really delicious as he urged Marcille to give it a try. She made sure that Senshi didn't use the plant that spit out the corpse before giving it a try. She was surprised at how delicious it was, and she even thought it was the plant's strategy to be delicious to attract its prey. Laios was in tears after seeing Marcille praise the monster. He thought she finally started to see their appeal. After cleaning their stuff, they decided to leave the adventurer corpse where it would be easily found, so they decided to hang him above one of the paths. Later in the night, while Marcille was having nightmares about the dungeon food, Laios continued to read the Dungeon Gourmet Guide while thinking of saving his sister. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoy this video, and please subscribe so you won't miss the next part. And just comment down any anime you want to see in this channel.